In today's video, we're going back to 2017 in England to talk about a 20-year-old girl who lost her life because of her job as an au pair. On September 20th, 2017, firefighters in West London received a call from the neighbors of a couple. The neighbors claimed that Sabrina Coider and Wissam Medoni had started a fire in their backyard and a terrible smell was coming from it. When the firefighters arrived at the couple's house, they saw that the neighbors were right to be worried because the fire was big and almost out of control. But Sabrina and Wissam were just standing next to it, totally calm, grilling chicken and meat like nothing was happening. There was a strong smell of burning, and the firefighters quickly put the fire out. What they found was horrifying: a burning corpse. One of the firefighters immediately asked Wissam what was burning in the fire. Wissam explained that they had bought a sheep from the market and were burning its carcass. He said there was nothing to worry about. The firefighter replied, "That's nonsense, because the remains in the fire undeniably look like a human's nails and fingers." On top of that, they found pieces of clothing and jewelry in the ashes. The firefighter was right. The horrible smell wasn't coming from a burning sheep. The story of Sophie Unit is one of the most heartbreaking cases from 2017 in the UK, drawing a lot of attention. Sophie was a 20-year-old French girl who came to London as an au pair to work in the house of a French couple, Sabrina Coider and Wissam Medoni. At first, everything seemed fine and normal. Sophie was enjoying her new experience and had grown fond of the couple's kids. Over time, Sabrina developed obsessive and paranoid behavior. She became fixated on past relationship with Mark Walton, a former musician from Boyzone, and delusionally believed that Sophie was conspiring with Mark to harm her and her family. These delusions led Sabrina and Wissam to subject Sophie to mental and physical abuse over time. In September 2017, the police and firefighters were called to the couple's home because of a suspicious fire. At first, Wissam claimed they were burning a sheep's carcass, but upon investigation, it was revealed that they were burning Sophie Unit's body. In court, both Sabrina and Wissam admitted to burning Sophie's body, but each tried to blame the other for her death. Please subscribe to our channel and like the video. It takes a lot of effort to produce this content. Thank you. The two were jointly convicted of her murder because of their deranged behavior and the physical and mental torture they had inflicted on Sophie. Sophie had become so weak by the time of her death that she could barely stand. Her body was covered in deep cuts and severe bruises, clear signs of repeated beatings. A forensic medical examination showed that in the week leading up to her death, Sophie had become horribly malnourished from extreme starvation. She had suffered a series of cruel physical and psychological abuse that not only destroyed her body but left her mentally devastated. During the trial, a video recorded of Sophie was presented as evidence. In this video, Sophie, looking extremely weak and helpless, was forced to confess to fake conspiracy that Sabrina and Wissam had concocted against her. In the video, Sophie falsely claimed she was in contact with Mark Walton and was plotting to harm Sabrina's family. But in reality, she was only making these confessions to save her own life. Sophie's family, devastated by the terrible crime, came from France to attend the trial in London. Sophie's mother truthfully spoke in court about her daughter's kindness and love, asking the judicial system to bring justice for her. Her father, equally shocked by his daughter's horrific death, could barely speak, only pleading for justice. In the end, Sabrina Coider and Wissam Medoni were found guilty of Sophie's murder. The court declared that due to their delusional and fabricated beliefs, they had tortured and brutally killed Sophie. The jury found them both guilty and they were sentenced to life in prison. This brought some comfort to Sophie's family. Also, they could never forget the loss of their beloved daughter. The case of Sophie Leonard is one of the most horrifying crimes related to opera, showing how to what seemed like a simple job can end in tragic death. This case reminds us not only of the dangers that can arise when living in a stranger's home, but also of the need for better oversight of immigration and job system to protect vulnerable young people from such tragedies. It's late at night, streets are quiet, and most folks are snoozing, but there's this one dog out there, creeping through the shadows. At first glance, he seems just like any other guy, but deep down, he's anything but normal. This guy is Andre Chikatilo, a cold-blooded killer looking for his next victim, ready to dive into the twisted world of one of history's most infamous serial killers. Strapping because things are about to get seriously creepy. Andrei Chikatilo was born on October 16, 1936, into a poor Ukrainian family. He was the second kid, and life was tough. His dad was fighting in World War II, while his mom tried to hold everything together, but they were living in hardcore poverty. From the get-go, life was rough, and Andre grew up feeling lonely, lost, and pretty much invisible. In school, things didn't get any better. Andre was super shy, and the other kids bullied him like crazy. They even called him names like Mama's Boy and Weakling. This boy pushed Andre further into himself, planting the seeds for the darkness that would later take over his mind. Andre's mom was super religious and drilled all these strict values into him. But at the same time, she wasn't exactly the warm and fuzzy type. She was pretty harsh and even violent. That messed him up big time. Instead of sticking to the straight and narrow path she wanted, Andre's thoughts started wandering to darker places. By the time he hit his teenage years, Andre was fully isolated. He couldn't connect with anyone and became obsessed with these disturbing fantasies. He imagined himself as some powerful figure, a twisted hero in his own creepy world. Fast forward to 1978. When Chikatilo crossed the line and killed his first victim, his targets were usually women and children, folks he thought he could easily manipulate. One night, he met a young girl at a train station. He pretended he'd help her get home safely, but instead he lured her to a secluded spot, and that's when things took a seriously dark turn. Chikatilo had the sick talent for seeming friendly and harmless at first. He'd win his victims' trust with smooth talk and fake kindness. But the moment they were alone, the mask would drop and he'd become something way more terrifying. Andre didn't just kill his victims. He tortured them in ways that are hard to even describe. We're talking brutal, extreme stuff. He would stab, cut, and dismember his victims, taking his sweet time with each one. It was beyond sick. Chikatilo got some twisted satisfaction from making them suffer as much as he could before killing them. To everyone else, he looked like a regular guy. But beneath that calm surface, he was a monster. For years, Chikatilo managed to slip through the cracks. He changed his identity, forged documents, and always seemed one step ahead of the police. But as the body count kept climbing, they finally started putting the pieces together. By 1990, after years of hunting, they finally caught him. The evidence against him was overwhelming. He confessed to more than 15 murders, and the trial turned into a media circus. In court, Chikatilo talked about his crimes like he was just listing off groceries. No guilt, no remorse. He went into graphic detail about each horrible things he did like it was just another day at work. People were horrified. It wasn't just what he did, it was how cold and detached he was while talking about it. Andre Chikatilo's story shows how deep the darkness can go inside someone. He wasn't some movie villain. He was a real person who hid his evil behind a normal life. His case left everyone wondering how many other monsters might be lurking in plain sight. It's scary to think about, but Chikatilo's story reminds us that sometimes the real danger isn't out there in the shadows. It's right next to us, hiding in plain view. So, the next time you hear a story like this, ask yourself, how well do you really know the people around you? Imagine living in a house where every single day feels like a nightmare. You're locked away, chained to your bed, starving, and completely cut off from the outside world. No one even knows you exist. That was the reality for 13 kids from the Turpin family. But one phone call changed everything, revealing one of the most shocking cases of child abuse the world had ever seen. This is the terrifying story that left everyone speechless. From the outside, David and Louis Turpin seemed like your typical suburban couple. They had 13 children, which raised some eyebrows, but they looked like a happy family. David had a good job as an engineer, and Louise was a stay-at-home mom, raising their kids. They even took family trips to Disneyland and post smiling pictures on social media. But behind closed doors, things were far from normal. David and Louise start to slowly cut their kids off from the world. They pulled them out of school, claiming they'd homeschool them instead. But what really happened was far darker than anyone could imagine. The Turpin's obsession with control quickly turned into something nightmarish. They locked their kids inside a house, keeping them away from everyone. Over time, this control became pure torture. The children were chained to their beds, denied food, and sometimes weren't even allowed to shower for months. David and Louis used their twisted version of religion to justify their action. They believed they were protecting their children from the evils of the outside world, but in reality, they were turning their home into a personal prison where their kids had no hope of escape. When the police finally entered the house in January 2018, what they found was horrifying. The children were severely malnourished, some too weak to even stand. Their skin was pale, and their bodies were covered in bruises. Many of them hadn't seen sunlight in years. The house was filthy, and the essence of human waste filled the air. These kids, who should have been living normal lives, were trapped in a living hell. But everything changed when one brave girl, 17-year-old Jordan Turpin, found the courage to escape. She had been planning her escape for 2 years, and in the middle of the night, she climbed out of a window and ran for her life. Jordan had never used a phone before, but she somehow managed to call 911. She told the operator that her brother and sister were chained up and that they were all starving. That phone call was a turning point. When the police arrived, they found exactly what Jordan had described. Children filthy and sick, some chained to their beds, living in conditions that no one should ever enter. David and Louis Turpin were arrested, and soon the horrifying details of their abuse came out in court. The kids, who ranged in age from 2 to 29, had been tortured for years. They were starved, isolated, and beaten. Some of the older children didn't even know how to act in public or what the world outside was like. The Turpins were sentenced to life in prison, and their kids were finally freed from the nightmare they'd been living for so long. This story shocked the world, not just because of the horror of the abuse, but because it went on for so long without anyone noticing. How could a family that looked so normal be hiding such a dark, twisted secret? The Turpin family story is a chilling reminder that sometimes, behind the walls of an ordinary looking home, unimaginable horrors can be hiding. If you want to hear more true crime stories that uncover the dark realities behind closed doors, make sure to hit subscribe and turn on notifications. You won't want to miss our next video.